Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. There you are, all alone, trying to get your speech, your book, your thought leadership out there. You know what you're missing? You're missing a strategy to replicate, amplify, magnify, and make your empire a worldwide phenomenon. I have the perfect guest to help you do that. Janet Switzer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thanks, David.
So you are two things in my book. Number one, you are a legend in your own right. And then number two, you are also a legend behind some of the legends that we all know and love and probably have books on the bookshelf and tapes and DVDs. Kids, you can look up what those are on Wikipedia, tapes, DVDs. So for the people that don't know you yet, could you just spend a minute talking about your professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I've been in the industry over 30 years, and this sort of dates me, but all the way back in 1990, I was working for a guy named Jay Abraham, who at the time was America's highest paid marketing consultant. And he was doing contingency-based marketing. He would take companies on as clients, and his famous line was, "If I made you $1, you never would have had without me. Would you give me back a quarter of it?" And so he was literally making a percentage on contingency of all of the boost in revenues that his marketing campaigns would bring in for a company. And he hit upon the idea in those days of replicating himself. He was turning away clients, and he wanted to train other people to become similar, these contingency-based marketing consultants. So he started a program called the Protege Mentor Training Program. And back in the day, it was a 5-day live seminar followed by a year's worth of coaching, group coaching. Now, back in the day, you can imagine in 1990, most people had not even been on a 3-way conference call, but we had our own bridge with AT&T in Reno, Nevada, because we did so many of these group conference calls. They were known as teleseminars or teleconferences back then. And we did, I want to say 10 to 12 of those a week just with the group that we did. And this was not an inexpensive program. Jay's price at the time, his fee was $2,000 an hour to hire him for consultations. And people said, wow, for $15,000, which was the price of this program, I could get Jay for a whole year focused on my business. So about half of the people, about half the people in the program did want to become consultants. The other half really wanted to do it for their own companies, for their own businesses, and get his advice for a year. So that was the first sort of iteration of me working on, and I did a lot the marketing. I deployed it, created all of the materials, the study materials, a 400-page manual, and other kinds of back then for that kind of a price, we didn't have all the digital recordings and PDFs and ebooks and all those kinds of things back then. So we kind of, back in those days, if you were a best-selling author or a major name in your industry, and you had a high-priced program, people got what I call tonnage, and that's basically a big cardboard box with manuals and cassette tapes back in those days, actually. Can you believe it? But that was the first iteration of that. Somebody that I worked with replicating themselves. Quickly, though, I exited Jay's organization and quickly met just a chance meeting with Jack Canfield, who was the originator of a book series called Chicken Soup for the Soul with his co-author, Mark Victor Hansen. Chicken Soup for the Soul had just been published about 6 months earlier. They were still selling that book out of the back of their minivan at the SWAT meet when I met them, literally. So I did a lot of early work. Actually was the external strategist on all of the Chicken Soup marketing, all the way up until 2008 when they sold the brand and series Lock, Stock, and Barrel. But at the time I started with Jack, the very first thing I did for him was marketing a program that he had called the Facilitating Skills Program. Back in that day, Jack was still known as America's foremost authority on the subject of self-esteem. Self-esteem in the classroom, self-esteem in the workplace. And he had a summer program. It was a 5-day program, primarily for educators, but also mid-level managers at companies who wanted to use this with their staff. Self-esteem training could incorporate it into their work. And like I said, back in those days, it was a 5-day training. I think it was around $3,000. I don't remember the exact price, but again, that was Jack's way of replicating himself and having self-esteem consultants all over. And quickly on the heels of that second iteration was a third iteration, a woman I did work for, Lori Beth Jones in the Christian market. Do you remember a book called Jesus CEO?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus in Blue Jeans. Remember those books? She was the author of those books. And she had most recently written a book called The Path. And she was training pathfinders, people who were doing values-based management consulting and helping companies establish values-based strategies and policies and procedures within their company. So 3 iterations of replicating oneself right in a row. And David, I got to tell you, the light bulb finally went. You'd think after 3, after 1, it would have, but the light bulb went on overhead, and I said, you don't have to be a major name. You don't have to be on the 6 o'clock news. You don't have to be famous or even a PhD or anything like that to replicate the work that you're doing. So for those of your listeners who own their own companies, have a methodology, something that's unique, even maybe they're just mentoring a few people on a friendship basis, they can look to replicating themselves in a bigger way in their careers.
So I want to say two things, 2 conflicting thoughts. One is channeling our listeners and saying, well, wait a second. Janet just said, I don't need to be a big name. I don't need to be a John Maxwell, Les Brown, Jack Canfield. At the same time, they're thinking, well, now, wait a second. If I don't have a big audience, if I don't have a big list, if I don't have a big reach, in fact, maybe I'm struggling a little bit just to get clients for myself, let alone to get people that want to be certified or who want to replicate my methodology, training, and tools. This is a very, very fascinating chicken or egg question, right? So we're talking about market eminence as our sort of overall theme here. There are people who do the replication after they achieve some level of market eminence. And there's people that use replication to get to market eminence. Could you just share a little bit about the distinctions between those 2 different kinds of clients that you work with?
Sure, absolutely. And you're right, it is approached 2 different ways. Let me start with the second method, the I'm not known, and let's achieve market eminence by certifying or licensing one's work. The default position here is the minute you start training your peers, the minute you start training other people in your industry, you by default become more well-known, you become looked up to, you become the go-to expert that is training other people to do what you do and know what you know. So there's sort of a default mechanism that happens there. The first strategy that you mentioned, that happens a lot too. It doesn't need to be somebody with a lifelong famous name who finally, after decades, start certifying their own coaches or training trainers or licensing their work. Many do as a legacy project for their careers. But if you look at people who have one best-selling book, there are somebody like a Jay Shetty who is already, he came out with his book and is already certifying his own coaches. There are people and by the way, this is life coaches, for example. In other niche categories, you've got wellness coaches, you have Christian counselors, you have addiction awareness coaches. There's so many different kinds of coaches, trainers, advisors, consultants, practitioners, clinicians, that you don't necessarily need to be known in order to just have the next big idea for your industry.
Yeah. Hold on. This one is so good, even I'm taking notes. Listen, are you a CEO, founder, or corporate executive ready to fix your market obscurity problem and gain the market eminence you know you and your company deserve? Cool. Book your private Market Eminence Roadmap call with me, and let's see what might be possible for you. The link is simple. doitmarketing.com/call. See you over there. Now, I gotta get back to taking more notes. I am curious. There are so many, people that perhaps have been certified, right? They've been on the receiving end or the investing end of certifying with John Maxwell, duct tape marketing, book yourself solid, all of these different franchised programs. They go in and they're like, oh my God, Janet, there's a million pieces to this. There's workbooks, there's training, there's PowerPoint decks, there's events, there are guidelines, there is the licensing agreement, there is the train the trainer agenda. It seems like an overwhelming amount of assets and things that you need to create. Is there a minimum viable product or kind of a starter kit where, hey, kids, all you really need to start certifying people is A and B and C? And if so, what are those foundational pieces that we need to get going?
Yeah, I do have the ABC formula for you, actually. The curriculum, that's what I call it, the curriculum for training these practitioners of yours, these change agents. It's pretty simple. It starts with part A, which is teach them what you know. Teach them to think like you, teach them your expertise, teach them your methodology. And that can take a number of different forms. You could literally hold a weekend seminar, a week-long training, record it, transcribe that recording, and include videos along with the transcription of that material. So I've done that numerous times with people. I've also taken pre-recorded seminars. For example, if you are somebody who has a flagship program in the personal development category, let's say, you can literally have that transcribed, break it down into sections or modules, use the video of yourself, or if you're, say a part of a team, the video, and turn those into modules. So it's different sections, different topics, and then use AI to create a written piece to that, where people can, because not everyone has the time to view videos. Everyone learns differently. Many people are still readers in our industry, of course. There's audio tracks, things you can put together. So that's pretty simple. If you have a recorded program already, I've actually done it where somebody wanted to start certifying their own advisors and consultants, and I said, "Do you have a seminar coming up? And what are you going to teach at that seminar?" And we completely recrafted the whole seminar specifically to create the material that was needed to teach advisors and consultants what that expert knew. So that's part A, teach them what you know. Part B is teach them how to do what you do. And that's basically teaching these certified coaches, trainers, practitioners how to do what you do. So how to coach, how to be the best coach of your material, how to be an excellent consultant or advisor using your methodology, how to be successful out in the field with their own clients or customers. That can take many different forms as well. I've worked with people who didn't have that material, but I got them in studio for a day with with a video camera and some bulletized lists, and we created 10 modules to go along with the original 10 modules that taught them that client's material, that author's material. So let's say 10 modules in part A that teaches people what you know, 10 modules in part B that goes along with, teaching them how to do what you do. But there are some other simple hacks that make it easy on these coaches, these trained trainers. And that's things like a cheat sheet for every coach that's never given to the client, but it's a list of questions that helps the coach do an excellent half-hour or 45-minute coaching session, walking them through all the questions to ask a client, how to process people. There's, along with those videos and those cheat sheets, there's other things that you can do, like a guide. This is particularly helpful in life coaching, how to handle the tough stuff that comes up during coaching, divorce, job loss, and other of the pains and stresses and traumas that are part of the human condition. That's something that you can include. So we're talking about the minimum viable product here for coaching people or training people. Part C rather. So part A, teach them what you know. Part B, teach them how to do what you do. And part C is help them be successful in this as a career path. That's marketing. That's maybe sales training. Maybe you don't have that yourself. Maybe you would like to be better at selling your own work or your own material. I would actually go out and grab somebody who is an expert on that to help you create just a basic marketing package. Maybe it's a templated website with all the copy they need to have on the pages they're going to add to their current website about this new methodology that they're using with clients. So a page about the methodology, maybe a page that sells a workshop that you've given them as part of this marketing, a standalone workshop with a script and some slides. And you can also include a collection of social posts that really speak to the benefits of this material. These do take time to produce, but you can always bring somebody in to produce these. An email campaign, maybe a lead magnet, which is just a PDF document that people can download at your website in order to so you can grab their email address from them for getting that PDF document. So just a little package, Sure. Yeah, and that's really all that's needed to create a minimum viable product.
Fantastic. I have a ton of questions based on what you just said, but I want to take a little station break because I'm fascinated by your business model. So, and we'll talk about this at the end, but I want to just give people a resource right now. If they go to replicateprogram.com, a ton of material about how Janet and her partner architect all of this and make it easy. I really, really don't recommend doing this on your own. So if this resonates with you, your first call should be Janet Switzer. But Janet, tell me, I'm curious, your program, is it coaching? Is it done with you? Is it done for you? Do you have a team that creates these assets? Because there's so many moving parts, right? I mean, there's instructional design, there's graphic design, there's workbooks, there's slides, there's cheat sheets, all these things that you just cataloged. All these things need to be created, and they shouldn't be like ugly, like black and white Word documents. They need to look good because people are paying money to use them. Is your business model teaching, coaching, agency, done for you? How do people get help from you and your partner?
Well, we do it two different ways, actually. The Replicate program that I'm doing, by the way, with Paul Martinelli, who is the genius behind growing John Maxwell's coaching network to 45,000 coaches in 162 countries. They did over $500 million in business on that coaching program over the 10 years that they partnered up on that. But Paul and I are really kind of the only two people on the planet that I know of anyway that are doing this. We go into companies, we work with subject matter experts, thought leaders, and we build those business units, whether it's train the trainer or some of the other models that we can talk about. But in this particular case, for the Replicate program that Paul and I are doing together, it is strategic planning, it's advisory. You get one-on-one time with Paul and I, as well as an advisor who, by the way, is no slouch either. He was at one point the master licensee for all Spanish language coach certification in the world from Coachville. So he's actually part of the hand-holding process. So we give you a complete strategic plan. We tell you exactly what to do. And then we give you an advisor for the next 6 months to handhold as you're implementing all of this. It covers everything from becoming recognized as a leading expert in your field, all the way to, through developing your materials and then marketing your way to success and actually getting your first coaches or licensees on board. So that's one way. That's an advisory, a private consulting and advisory program for people who either already have a program, or they can easily, using the methods that I just mentioned a few moments ago, can easily pull one together. We have people that have started the program that said, you know what, I have the germ of an idea. There's something that I do right now in my business that's successful for me. I think other practitioners in my industry could use this in their businesses or careers as well. And off we go. We're off and running. That's the first way that I work with people. The second way is actually more the agency model, where we do have people who can get those things done, whether it's a marketing technology manager who manages your tech stack and gets your all your email campaigns queued up and fired off. That's something that we do as well. But even in the Replicate program with Paul Martinelli and myself, as you can imagine, over the last 30 plus years, we have a huge Rolodex of people. So we're already always referring out to resources that can be helpful to people. Absolutely.
So I'm curious, let's say I'm a guru. It's not a big stretch, but let's say I'm a guru. I'm a micro guru. If I fully embrace this replication model, am I correct, Janet, that I probably will stop working with direct end user clients and my clients become my certified coaches? And my main focus when I get up every day is, how do I love on my coaches? How do I find new coaches? How do I enroll? How do I retain? How do I help make my coaches successful? And I'm not doing direct end user, end client work anymore. Is that right? Or is there sort of a middle ground too?
Well, the easy answer to that is there only if you wish to stop working with clients. Many people who decide to replicate themselves are, they're approaching, the later years of their career. They have
man, I'm
material.
done. I'm toast.
They don't necessarily want to work with clients on a daily basis. However, that said, if you wish, you can literally just certify people as a side hustle. And that's certifying people, licensing your, maybe it's your business operating system to them. A perfect example of this is one client I worked with. He was an author. He'd written a book. He's a financial advisor, and he had a unique way of recruiting new clients for his financial advisory practice. And he was mentoring 3 to 5 people just to see, could this be replicated? Can other people learn to do what I do and successfully do it? And my goodness, they were successful, those 3 to 5 people. So he came to me and said, hey, I've got proof of concept already, but I don't want it to take over my clientele, my normal financial advisory work, because I'm making a ton of money on that.
Yeah.
Just teach me how to do this. Help me do this as a side hustle. So we literally, my team, we created his workbooks. We created the initial marketing campaign, what we call the big campaign. And we launched it, and that side hustle became so successful. He was one of the top salespeople in his particular company, selling insurance products, annuities, things like that. And literally, he ended up selling the whole thing. His side hustle, sold it to the parent company, and it became their initial training program for new advisors coming into their network. So that's just an example of what can happen if you say, you know what, I'm going to do both. In the case of Jay Abraham, certainly Jack Canfield, they were constantly doing other things other than certifying people. Absolutely. And nowadays, we do have a lot of certification programs that take place online. So they're available 24/7 on any device. Yeah. That's how you're getting people from all these countries. And in the case of Jack Canfield, he launched the Canfield methodology, and we were training people on the strategies from directly out of the book that he and I did together called The Success Principles, and now have trained and certified people in 107 countries, I believe it is 107.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about this sales skill. A lot of times, I think the elephant in the room with many of these certification programs that are out there, it's top-notch material. It is really rock solid. Whether we're talking John Maxwell or duct tape marketing or something that I might create or you might create, teaching people to be great in front of the room, be a great coach, a great consultant, a great deliverer is hard but doable. If they can't sell, they won't succeed. And I think a lot of people buy into these various programs, and there's dozens and dozens of them, probably hundreds. You probably know much more than I do. There's hundreds of them. I think the big complaint is, I got the material. It was an amazing event. Train the trainer. The materials are top notch. The training was mind-bendingly wonderful. I just can't sell it. I just can't get clients. I just can't get traction. I just can't get this off the ground. And I've talked to several different people because, we have similar friends. John Jantsch, Phil Jones with exactly what to say, certified consultants. I say, well, does it bother you that some of your certified people either can't sell, don't sell, won't sell? And the typical answer is, it doesn't bother me because that's on them, right? I've given them everything that they need to be successful. Sales templates, scripts, copywriting, sample website, videos. I mean, you name it. I've loaded them up with an entire arsenal of sales material, sales training, and sales strategies. If they're sales reluctant, if they don't want to be salesy, I've heard this for 20 years, I'm sure you have too, but Janet, I don't want to be salesy. To which I always tell my clients, listen, you want to be salesy or you want to be brokey? Those are your two choices, salesy, brokey, and not salesy in a pushy, slimy way. Anyhow, how do we overcome this obstacle that you have an amazing program, but your certified coaches, certified consultants are not seeing success financially?
Well, there's a couple of things that you could do. First of all, as you mentioned, provide all of those sales tools, all the sales training. We actually have a sales training in the Replicate program. It's Paul Martinelli's sales training program that he used. I mean, his sales methods are the gold standard for selling what I call intangible benefits.
And Paul's program, am I right, is selling to a B2B audience, like an economic buyer inside of a company of any size?
No, not selling B2C, because these are selling to potential practitioners, potential certified coaches. So that's the first piece of it. Now you're talking about coaches and licensees selling to their end user.
Struggles with selling, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple things you can do, which I actually have done in the past for some of my clients, because not everyone who's a genius or a thought leader is good at sales.
Amen.
And you literally cannot guarantee that the people who want to become certified are going to be good salespeople either. If you think about who they are as individuals, they have a heart for helping people. That's why they're coaches and trainers to begin with. That's why they're licensees to begin with. So sales is not their forte. So a couple things you can do. First of all, in one case, for one of my clients, we set up an entire online marketing infrastructure that did the work of selling. There was a long form landing page that had all the information in order to get an end user to make a buying decision. They could click through and buy, and then the money flowed right to the coach or the coach who'd been trained. So that's something that we did, and that was successful. And I think the other thing that you can do is advise and have a special training included in your program, but advise your certified practitioners, go get a salesperson. I actually did that with one client, and this was in the alternative healthcare field. Very, very few of them, even though we gave them scripts that they could memorize and everything. Many of them literally hired a salesperson because everything else that we gave them helped them create a thriving alternative therapy practice. Yeah. So it became very attractive to a salesperson coming on saying, you'll get paid commission and these are our numbers. And that was very, very successful. So those are two things that you can do.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
I realized I sort of took us off the track here because I'm so fascinated in the business side. I want to get back into the replicate side for a moment. One of the requirements that you mentioned is having a unique methodology. And we just talked about life coaches, marketing coaches, sales coaches, leadership coaches, health and wellness coaches, weight loss coaches. What is your definition? What is the bar that people need to meet to say, okay, that is a unique methodology that can be protected, trademarked, replicated, whatever you want to call it, versus, hey, I'm a great life coach and I just intuitively know all this stuff and have the right question at the right moment and it's all kind of wishy-washy, squishy. Tell me about unique methodology and what's the standard for that you like to look for with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a unique methodology in my definition is really something that is new and fresh. It might cobble together longstanding time-tested strategies and procedures, but you've combined them in a different way that helps somebody get a result. So you're going to help this coach get a better result with their clients. You're going to help a business consultant get better results with their clients. A perfect example of a unique methodology is actually, this came up in the 1970s. This client of mine, Dr. Roger Callahan. Are you familiar with tapping therapy?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the original science was developed by Dr. Roger Callahan and his wife, Joanne Callahan. She runs the company now. Dr. Roger's deceased. But he was a psychotherapist. And he was not getting good results through just cognitive, what we call talk therapy. And he literally, a chance meeting, a chance patient session with one of his patients, he knew that the body is operated with these energy meridians. There's electrical impulses that go through our bodies all the time, running our muscles and nerves and all that. And he knew, because he had dabbled in Eastern thought as well, that those energy meridians also stored emotions. And one of his patients, literally during a session one day, she was having extreme nausea. And he knew that the cheekbone was the end point of the meridian that affected the stomach. And he asked her to just start tapping there. And she literally within seconds got relief from that. And that really started his idea that, instead of acupuncture, instead of acupressure, could somebody literally think through, emote or think through the emotion of maybe a traumatic event that happened in their life or whatever, and just start tapping on these. And he mapped all the tapping points on the body, and he developed this over several years. He had a 5-minute phobia cure. He cured Whoopi Goldberg and other people, other celebrities on television shows, fear of flying, fear of closed spaces, things like that. So that's a unique methodology that he really developed over time. In the case of life coaching, for example, which is a very, very broad category.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you have a unique formula. Instead of everyone as your client, maybe you work just with entrepreneurial couples, for example, or you have developed a program for a niche. That's an example of a unique methodology. But there's, the bar is actually lower than it once was. Like I said, you don't have to be a PhD. You don't have to have a best-selling book, just something that you've developed that's unique in the industry. And what we do know, by the way, is many coaches and trainers, they've taken several certifications.
Oh, yeah.
What often happens is they say, you know what? I'm not really doing in my career what I'd like to be doing. There's got to be something more out there. And they're going to look for the something more. I hope they find you. and your methodology.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So there are so many replication models. As I was looking at some of this material in preparation for our conversation today, even I learned a couple things. Tell us about some of the greatest hits of all the different replication models people might choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are numerous, but just some of the highlights is certifying your own coaches. We've been talking about that at length here. Certifying your own coaches, your own agents, your own practitioners, to either start their own coaching business or enhance the coaching business or consulting practice that they already do have. The second one is licensing your methodology or your business operating system, including international licensing. I mentioned tapping therapy. One of the first things they did is they sold licenses to master licensees in Korea, South Korea, or Brazil, where those master licensees in those countries are not only equipped and resourced, but they are required to train, recruit and train other practitioners in their own language in those countries. So those are master licensees. And I worked on a number of programs like that where we sold off like all of Canada to an investor consortium or all of Australia. That happens frequently. So that's licensing your methodology. Train the trainer. That's really also what I think of as train the workshop leader. Those programs really do prepare others to present your workshop or your training content in front of an audience. So that's something that you can do. Subscription consulting that's another way to replicate yourself, and that's literally subscription consulting services for purchase by consultants. A perfect example of this is one that I did in the alternative healthcare field. We had practitioners who were paying $1,200 a month for ongoing training, use of materials, marketing campaigns, things like that would help them build their own practice. When I was still at J. Abraham's organization, there was a gal that I worked with who did the same identical thing in the estate planning industry, also the plastic surgery categories, where she had an entire marketing notebook of campaigns and different things that these lawyers and surgeons could rent for $1,500 a month. If you could imagine just having 100 of those around the country, around the world, renting your methodology. My goodness, that's a nice side hustle, right? So subscription consulting, either for growing their business or serving their clients and customers better. Also corporate training. For those of you listening there who want to really grab that brass ring, this is sort of the holy grail for a lot of trainers, and that's to get these big corporate consulting contracts. But if you can equip and resource in-house trainers at those companies to use your work, that's a way to replicate yourself. And a perfect example of this, again, is Jack Canfield. Back in the day, as I mentioned, America's foremost authority on self-esteem in the workplace. And he did a big deal with New England Telephone 9X to train all their new hires on how to be good at whatever job you were hired to do. These were lunch and learn programs. And 9X wanted him to come back again and again. And he says, like, yeah, not really, but I'll record something. Let's license this to you. And he trained in-house trainers there. They were really facilitators because they were trained to start and stop the video. Back then, we actually had VHS tapes. Can you believe it? But they started and stopped the video. And then they facilitated an exercise that was in a printed workbook, which Jack sold to the company. So they had to buy a workbook for every new hire that was going through that program. It was so successful at New England Telephone that Jack genericized it and sold it to many, many other companies under the brand, the STAR brand, Success Through Action and Responsibility, the STAR program. So that's an example of corporate training where you can license your material. Business builder or practice builder programs. These are so popular. That's to help entrepreneurs or practitioners literally build their practice. And it's like I mentioned, the marketing, rent my marketing notebook, pay $1,200 a month to build your practice. Those are perfect examples of those. And I think the very easiest thing to do, where you don't necessarily have to bring on certified or licensed practitioners and work with them all the time, is just to get subscribers for a best practices newsletter or become the clearinghouse of information in your category, in your industry, and sell a monthly subscription to some of these best practices. That's a way to replicate yourself as well. And there's many more examples beyond that.
So good. It's like a dense, flourless chocolate cake.
You're right.
So I know people are going to want to get connected and stay connected to more Janet Switzer brilliance, learn more about the Replicate program. Where can we send them? What resources, what links should go in the show notes?
Absolutely. Just go to replicateprogram.com. And you'll be able to read all about what Paul Martinelli and I are doing to help people like your listeners start replicating themselves in these many different ways. And you can imagine over our careers, 30 plus years, we've worked with a lot of different replication models, some of which we've mentioned here today. But go to the website, Replicate Program, click where it says get in touch with us. And we ask you to complete just a handful of questions: who you are, what industry you're in, what kinds of things have you been doing already, just to give us an idea who you are before we talk to you. That's fair. But you'll get ideas just from that call. Our team is going to talk to you about what your idea might be worth in the market long term, how you can grow a legacy style impact, replicating yourself in your market. And if you do decide to become one of our advisory clients in the Replicate program, you can actually get started for as little as $500, $539 actually. So please ask about that. But here's what I see in the certifying space, David. I've been around a long time. You've certainly been around a long time. And there are what I call elder statesmen, the geniuses, the gurus.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? A lot of them are working on their legacy projects. So there's room now for all kinds of new people with new technology, AI, all kinds of things. Anyone who has a new methodology or formula can step up into the vacuum that's been created.
So good. Well, Janet Switzer, you are a rock star. I appreciate you. People will need to re-listen to this episode at least 2 more times. So pull the car over, get off the treadmill, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. Definitely go to replicateprogram.com. And you will see, by the way, just as a student of the game, you will also see a fantastic website, masterful copywriting, incredible value prop. In fact, you know what? Don't go there, because the site is so good, you'll probably end up enrolling. So no, just don't even go there. You're not worthy. Don't even look at replicateprogram.com. It's probably not for you. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Get your butt over there. Janet, thank you again for being with us.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on the show, David.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.